Hello everyone, this is going to be a video about books, so fasten your seatbelts and we're going to look at a few. I've got about, I don't know, maybe 10 here, so yeah, this won't be rapid fire, it'll just be me talking about some books that I've used over the past 2-3 years or so. So I used to work mainly in networks with Cisco equipment, and I gradually realised the writing was on the wall with that, with cloud migrations and so on. So I started getting more into programming. I'd previously used Visual Basic and Delphi back in the day. So yeah, it wasn't entirely new to me. Let's show you, I'll show you probably the first significant book that I bought. When I say significant, it's probably the first book that I tried to work through systematically. You might recognize this from your own past. So from this book, the most important thing in my opinion was this chapter with regard to OOP, objects, class names, inheritance, and basic object. Anyway, that's that one. So that was probably the first significant book. I'll get to this one at the end because this is kind of a bit more leisure rather than work based, I would say. So this one, I think I had some Amazon vouchers for Christmas, maybe 5 years ago. And I did a bit of research, and it was a choice between this one and Al Swigert. So this is the Eric Matthes one, and you can see I've got all the bookmarks in it and everything. So what did I learn from this? I would say I learned lots about lists, and probably not as much about dictionaries as I should have done. So in the early days, I kind of used lists for everything. Even when I was doing web scraping projects, I tended to use lists sometimes when I should have used dictionaries. But yeah, this is really comprehensive, and it quite often uses the alien example, or aliens. And yeah, later on you get to some projects, and then you build an alien game. But again, with some of these examples, there was so much typing. And I think the amount of typing was not worth what you were going to learn. If you did want to actually have a game, then it was worth it. But just for the purposes of learning, I think you end up concentrating on typing more than you do on understanding the concepts. Once you end up having to type a huge amount. I know I said typing's better than copy and pasting, but yeah, if you've got to type 400 lines, then you probably just end up getting really bored of typing and you start daydreaming, or I do anyway. But yeah, self, everywhere is self. So again, OOP, probably the biggest thing you learn from this. Oh, and in the back, yeah, I forgot about this. Really good matplotlib examples. So, yeah, this is where I learned, I think it's a whole project actually. There's a whole project with, I think it was earthquake data. Yeah, the data visualization, chapter 15. Daily temperatures, matplotlib, JSON, lot of, yeah. Data manipulation, parsing, making an API call to GitHub. I don't know if you can still do that, but monitoring API limits on GitHub. Most starred projects on GitHub. Yeah, so you get the idea. And then it actually did a Django project, believe it or not, which I don't think I fully did back then. I've done a few Django projects since, but I think Django is really it's a thing in its own right. So if you want, you can either be a data engineer or a programmer or a Django boffin. And yeah, I thought if I was going to do Django, I'd have to live and breathe it. And I didn't think it was actually, I didn't think it was for me, or not to dedicate my entire career to Django. So yeah, Python crash course, Eric Matthes. Okay, so that's the second one. Yeah, I've got a couple of Rust ones here. Let me just this is quite an old one, and this is probably what made me realise that I was never going to be a C++ programmer. It just felt like, even to write Hello World or whatever, well, maybe not Hello World, but to write to a file, it just seems like really hard work. And eventually, once you get to the pointers and referencing objects, I probably wouldn't be too freaked out by it now. But back then, yeah, public and private, it just seemed like really hard work. After I'd learned, if you learn Python first and then you come and try and learn this, I think this is probably why universities, if you watch, is it Chris Burke on YouTube? It looks like he starts people off with Java, believe it or not, and yeah. I think if I was ever locked in a room and I was just, or on a desert island and I only had this book, I probably would read it, and I probably would kind of, yeah, be fairly okay with it. But what this book did was it actually, it made me think that the Easy Steps books are actually quite good. So when I was trying to learn JavaScript a few years later, so this book, the C++ one is, let me see, Mike McGrath, he seems to write a lot of books. He must be a smart man. 2003 copyright. So this one, it's got a newer style of cover and it's got colour pages and it's, yeah, it's great. What date is it? Can't see the copyright. Oh, 2020. So this is really quite a new one. And you can see it's all nice and colour and all the hot tips, don't forget. So I used this when I was writing, I don't know if any of you have seen my findthatbit.info site that long story short, I've written a fast API which is consumed by JavaScript and HTML, and it actually takes you to the timestamp of a YouTube video based on a semantic search. So it uses Mini, one of the small Hugging Face language models, and built that about a year ago. But yeah, I think this was pretty good. The only thing it kind of probably exposed me to was object-oriented JavaScript, which I think looking back, I probably didn't need to dwell on that much, and I probably just could have. I might have been better off doing doing a couple of Vue tutorials and spending 10 or 20 hours on that rather than getting knee deep in. Because actually, this goes into promises, which I don't think is probably quite so essential now. Yeah, there we go. Canvas features. So if you want to learn JavaScript from scratch, I'd say this is a really good one. Really good. I'm kind of doing these in reverse order of preference. So C programming. So just before lockdown, I think I started watching Barry Brown, and having previous experience with C++, and then I watched Barry Brown, I thought, well, let's go back and see, no pun intended, see if I can get to grips with C rather than C++. Having already watched Barry Brown, he's a professor in America at, I think it's one of the California universities. Can't remember the exact one, but yeah, this was a lot easier to understand and follow than C++. This I'd done C years and years ago when I was trying to do some stuff with relays and the Linux machine and Apache. I was trying to remotely operate a relay or allow someone over a webcam to remotely control a lamp on my desk. I had to set up NAT and everything because obviously a dynamic IP. I didn't have a static IP address on my broadband or anything. So yeah, again, pointers still, yeah, it felt like hard work doing lots of stuff with pointers. And I think one criticism of kind of the C and C++ is they expose you to doing stuff with text and with strings. And you just think, well, this is taking me 20 or 30 lines and it's really complicated and I could do this with one line in Python. So yeah, in some ways I wish they would teach you, the bitwise operations first. And then just you can get to the there's a Windows thing which I wouldn't have ever done because I wasn't going to be doing Windows GUI stuff with C. The whole point of C was to stick with Linux, and I think I did some of these examples on a Raspberry Pi even. So yeah, again, I think it's Mike McGrath. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Getting to some of my favourites now. Python one-liners, so the complete opposite to what I was just talking about with C. So once you've read this, you think, well, why would I do anything else? Why would I use another language when you can just do all these one-liners in Python and it's amazing? And obviously I kind of understand the reasons why you have to use other languages now, but I think I bought this I bought it when it first came out. So when did it come out? 2020. 2020, so yeah, just over 4 years ago. Yeah, some amazing one-liners in here, and yeah, it's quite a small book, but because the examples are one-liners, then I think that was kind of the point. A small book with lots of one-liners. List comprehensions, zip, NumPy, really good. I think I used some of this, or I think some of this knowledge gave me kind of the confidence to do some of the machine learning stuff. And talking of machine learning, this actually is where I learned about logistic regression. Yeah, the sigmoid function. I learned from here logistic regression and linear regression. Overfitting, underfitting, k-means clustering. So yeah, even if you're not, even if your main job is not Python, I would say probably you were still, well, say for instance you're a network engineer or you're a data engineer or whatever, or systems engineer, I would say read this anyway. So even if you're not going to specialize in Python, this will just save you time doing other jobs which are kind of ancillary to what you do as a main job. So yeah, lambda functions, NumPy, pandas, linear regression, logistic regression. And this is kind of sets you up well for obviously then jumping off onto AI and all that stuff, so large language models and so on. So a lot of the stuff here gave me confidence to go and work with Hugging Face, large language models. I've used Quadrant for my semantic search. So yeah, vector databases and so on. Getting towards some of the really good ones now. So The Art of Clean Code, again, Christian Mayer. So he wrote this he wrote this one first, then he wrote this one. So I kind of bought this one off the back of enjoying the Python one-liners one. And this was about 2021, 2022, was it? 2022. And this is kind of, it gives you a bit of context for your career, I would say. And it makes you think about what you're doing, what you're learning, how you go about planning, defining, building, how to organize your life, how to spend your time wisely, productivity. You know, a small increase in effort will move you, move you up the curve and so on there. So yeah, obviously it's like the top 20% of programmers, and here we go, it's the Pareto 80-20. Bill Gates said, a great lathe operator commands several times the wage of an average lathe operator, but a great writer of software code is worth 10,000 times the price of an average software writer. Obviously, because it's used by so many more people. Programmer net worth. So it's quite motivating, and it gives you kind of minimum viable product. So it kind of combines thinking about your career, how you spend your time, how to stay motivated, how to do personal projects, commenting your code, minimizing dependencies, optimization. Premature optimization is the root of all evil. We all know that quote. Performance tuning, feedback, flow. Store data in flat text files. I think that means kind of for an MVP. Make every program a filter. So this is quite kind of I would say it probably has a slight Python edge to it, but really you can apply a lot of this to anything. Minimalism. It talks about minimalism, which is kind of I love, and this kind of one of the Unix key sort of it's the ethos of Unix, isn't it? Do one thing, do it well. It talks here about building a website, minimum viable product. Entropy, productivity, focus, flow, conclusion. Yeah, so there we go. The Art of Clean Code. I would recommend this to anybody. So whether you're learning Python, JavaScript, C, Go, Rust, whatever, I would say buy this book. It's not that expensive. I think it's $29. I think I bought it for about £20. So I probably need to go back and reread this one, to be fair, because it's quite motivating when you read it. Okay, so down to the last two. And if you're a Python fan, and don't worry, I won't talk about these for too long. This Rust one, I've done this pretty much from start to finish. The only chapter I haven't really done is the WASM and the Windows project right at the end. There's a Windows project. So there we've got the WASM and the Windows example right at the end. Oh, I'm building, I haven't done chapter 19. But apart from that, I've done all of the linked list. Linked list is a really good one. I've kind of tried to memorize the linked list. When I bought it, I think this chapter 13 was one of the key things, because it seemed to be a good one or two chapters on it without being kind of too daunting. So I bought it partly because of chapter 13 and dynamic dispatch, static dispatch in Rust, Arc, message passing concurrency. I've done all of these chapters. I probably couldn't memorize the code or write the code from scratch, but I know what is missing if I attempt to write some code, and then I know what I need to go and look for, or I understand the error messages. And obviously the earlier chapters are more, The traits, I would say the bits on traits were good, but basic. So I would say if you're trying to learn Rust, you probably need to read this one, but I would say traits were possibly the thing that it has covered it well. Don't get me wrong, and I'm definitely saying I would, given the chance, I would still buy this first. This would definitely be my first Rust book if I was to go back in time, definitely. But you do need probably some additional. I mean, you do with any book, don't you? Just one book's not going to teach you everything. So that's kind of why I've gone and bought this by Manning Press, David McLeod. And I'm currently up to chapter 7. I'm looking at traits. What I really like about it, the font's a bit on the small side, but it's almost 600 pages. This is quite good value for money, even though it's about 40 quid, $50 or whatever. But it's got some nice annotation, so it gives you the code. And some of the annotation is really exactly what you need. It helps you learn. It tells you, sort of in plain English, it tells you why it's there and what would happen if it wasn't there. And yeah, you see the dark black, the bold annotation everywhere, and that's really, really helpful. Question mark operator, collections, option, generics, destructuring, enums, and so on. So I'm up to chapter 7 here. So the traits. Actually, I think I've gone on and done closures and iterators, but yeah. So up to page 168, and I'm still on iterators. But I've learned even more stuff about traits. So I'm hoping the second half of the book will take me into kind of the long grass with. I think it sets working with user input. I think I'm going to learn a lot about patterns, external crates. Yeah, no, it's all good. So 600 pages, whereas this one, and don't get me wrong, this is definitely a really, really good book, but this was 300 pages. So the number of pages isn't everything, but pound for pound, if you've got a book that's 300 pages and a book that's 600 pages, and they're both great books, then you'd expect to learn more from the 600 page book. Okay, so that's my book collection really. I've got a load of networking books as well, some load of Cisco books which are probably out of date now and they cost me a fortune. But I'm not going to moan about that. That's history. I think they call it the sunk cost fallacy. So this one. The cracking codebook even. From intrigue and warfare to genetics and the internet, the secret science of codes revealed. That's a really good story. Well, not good, but a sad story about Mary Queen of Scots with her coded message. Yeah, so encryption or lack of can cost you your life. Yeah, it teaches you. So it's kind of like a book you could take on holiday or read on the plane, because it's just like a paperback. But it teaches you about ciphers, the Vignere cipher. One of the things which I really learned here was about the frequency. So even if you think you've got a really secure, if you think what you've got is uncrackable, just on the frequency of a symbol can give the game away, because obviously like in the English language, the letter E is the most common. So the most common symbol, even if you've got hieroglyphics, would probably be the letter E. And then you can, you can go from there. I'm only about a third of the way through this, so I can't talk that knowledgeably about it, but I say it's kind of just like light reading, but light reading plus useful, I would say. Or if you're studying or you're a student but you're supposed to be on holiday or you're supposed to be sat on a sunbed, then take this with it. Take this with you, and you put a fake cover on it if you wanted, but then you could carry on learning while you're on the sunbed. Yeah, this has got a lot of history. There's a lot of history here about how, the Romans in the Second World War, the code breakers. Babbage. Yeah, so Simon Singh, the Cracking Code Book. I know John Genset, one of the top sort of Rust channels, like he recommended this as well, but coincidentally I already had it. So yeah, I was quite chuffed when I heard him recommending this. So yeah, so that's my pile of books, and yeah, so out of all of these, I will go back to, I'll go back to The Art of Clean Code at some point, because this is a book you can read over and over again, and it's quite good motivation. So yeah, definitely this one. And whether you're learning Rust, Python, C, whatever, any language, this is good. It's got a couple of Python, it's got some Python examples in it, but I'm sure we can all probably understand Python enough to get the benefit. Yeah, the one-liners, again, really loved that, and that's useful for whatever your day job is. You'll get some value from this, even if Python's not your main language. If you are just starting out in Rust, really recommend this. And yeah, JavaScript. I would say if anybody just wants or needs JavaScript just to kind of be able to build their own website, or create dynamic web pages on their own website without actually wanting to be a professional JavaScript coder, then this is a good book. Or if you just want to, if you're young and you're 12 years old or 14 years old and you want to just get into JavaScript, it is good. This would be a good starting point, I guess. Yeah, so for me, I'll be back to this for the next few weeks. I know it says a month of lunches, but I don't know. I think some of these, like learn something in 24 hours. Remember those old books? I don't think it was 24 hours. I think it was probably something more like year and a half. Do you like my metal 15 centimeter ruler as a bookmark? I get that. That's quite blokish, isn't it? Yeah, so there we go. Rust in a month of lunches. I'll leave you with that.